In this week's Blizzard News, we talk about some new information revealed on what's being worked on in WoW Patch 5.2, Mike Morhaime interviews regarding Heart of the Swarm and Blizzard All-Stars, some awesome trinkets loyal Blizzard employees are receiving, and finally, why the mainstream media linking murderers to video games is a bunch of bullshit. Hey guys, welcome to the newest episode of Blizz Planet News. Now, as always, I'm your host, Chris Arnone. I know, looking pretty beard-tastic and a little scruffy, but man, look at this length I got going right now, right? Yeah, whoa, she likes it. Anyway, so I tell you what, the holiday season is upon us, and so that means there's going to be a lot of information coming down the pipe at you. Let's start with that World of Warcraft weekly news roundup.
Here's the beef.
So first off, we got some news about patch 5.2. Now, no official information, just a few things that some devs and some CMs have been talking about, like on Twitter and a lot of the other social networks and whatnot. So if you're tired of doing daily quests, well, the devs are working on a way so that you can earn reputation through scenarios and dungeons. Well, if you're tired of also doing dailies to get lesser charms of good fortune, well, they're planning on working in a way for you to get that through pet battles, which of course Eldorian was doing a little dance about. Anything that he can get out of his numerous and unending pet battles just is a bonus for him. And there are also plans to turn Valor points into Justice points in case you've hit the Valor cap. So that'll help people, who really do a lot of that. Now, new raid is being teased for 5.2, and it's called Thunder Isle. Now, Blizzard has sent Blizz Planet a teaser of it, all right? Just a little thing that says, the Thunder King has risen, 5.2 PTR coming early January, all right? This is breaking news. Now, no other information was given to us at this time. That's all it said. However, we know from previous interviews with developers that this is going to be just a massive raid. We're talking on scale of Ulduar and the Ice Crown Citadel in Wrath of the Lich King. So we're talking something like 15 plus bosses. Absolutely massive raid coming to the public test realms in January. Thunder Isle. So look out for that one. That does it for World of Warcraft. Let's talk Starcraft 2.
Want a piece of me, boy?
So recently, Mike Morhaime, president, CEO of Blizzard Entertainment, did some interviews with several gaming places. Went to PC Games Inn, Gamer Hub, and Team Liquid while he was at BWC. Now, some cool notes coming out of these interviews. First off, StarCraft 2 is intimidating to start for players who are not interested, in competitive play. And a lot of people know that. It's really kind of hard to break into. There's a sharp learning curve. It's not the easiest game to just pick up and start playing, especially at that competitive level. Heart of the Swarm addresses this by adding a new training mode for players to play against a progressively harder AI and just get the basic concepts down and get better at them before they go off and go online to try to fight people online. I mean, those competitive guys, they're just crazy, crazy hard. StarCraft 2 has a lot of value for the price, especially compared with some of these free-to-play models. Taking a direct stab at all those, including us, who've been talking about StarCraft 2 possibly going free-to-play. So he did a lot of talk about sort of, how much bang for the buck you get when you buy StarCraft 2. So definitely want to check those out. And then finally, after Heart of the Swarm is released, the team is going to focus its efforts on preparing for, you ready for this? Blizzard All-Stars Beta. That's pretty exciting stuff. I got to play a little bit of that at BlizzCon last year, almost 2 years ago now. It's almost 2013. But I tell you what, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. Of course, I played some Dota 2, a little bit of League of Legends, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Blizzard can bring to the MOBA scene. And obviously, they're going to be putting their efforts into that once Heart of the Swarm launches. So that's enough for StarCraft 2. I know not a lot there. Let's get into just some, other news, so to speak. Now, first off, we're talking about Blizzard. They do gifts, all right? For like many companies, when you hit certain milestones working for the company, they give you a really cool gift. Well, not many come much cooler than Blizzard. For instance, they just have unveiled their 20-year gift. 20 years with Blizzard Entertainment, all right? Nick Carpenter, the VP of Art and Cinematic Development, shared directly with Blizz Planet via Twitter a new gift for Blizzard employees once they hit that 2-decade mark. It is a custom crown called the Crown of Dedication. Full-on crown, all right? Now, those of you not familiar, after 5 years, you get a sword. 10 years, you get a shield. 15 years with a company, they give you a platinum ring worth $3,000. I want to work there, right? And the crown looks like a cross between the helmet Imperius that's seen in Diablo 3 and the Lich King crown that's seen in World of Warcraft. But now it is not a direct replica of either. It's sort of a cool, crazy cross between them. So, yeah, I mean, how awesome is that? You actually get a crown when you've worked there 20 years. I want to go get a job, man. Okay, but on top of that, okay, so you haven't gotten 20 years. Maybe you're new to the company. Well, they also give an employee gift out to all of their employees, no matter how long you've been there. And what this year is a treasure goblin statue. Once again, Nick Carpenter shared with BlizzPlanet on Twitter what the Christmas gift is for these Blizzard employees. And it is a really cool looking statue of the treasure goblin found in Diablo 3. It's just awesome, right? So let's talk not so much Blizzard, more BlizzPlanet. We've got some giveaways. Oh my God, so many giveaways going on. And of course, we're coming up on the holidays. It's the absolute perfect time. Why not get a gift from BlizzPlanet to you, our dedicated viewers, readers, and whatnot? So we're posting all of these, all the loot that we're giving away. No details quite yet, but coming very, very soon. We got about 36 packages of loot that we're going to be giving away. Starcraft and Warcraft related copies of Mist of Pandaria Collector's Edition, signed by the entire development team, 50 Heart of the Swarm beta keys, just so much stuff that we are just dying to give away to you guys. So go check out BlizzPlanet.com, get all the details, all these different packages of loot, and what you can do, how you can win this awesome, awesome stuff. All right, so that does it with all of our news. Let's get into my keyboard confessional. So what we're going to be talking about this week, I tell you what, it's some really heavy stuff. It's really hard. A week ago today, day we're filming this, was the shooting in Connecticut at Sandy Hook Elementary. You know, my heart goes out to those families, to those who have lost so much. And, you know, there's no way I could even begin to fathom what it must be like for those people who have gone through such a tragedy and are now having to deal with the aftermath of that. So I want to get that right out of the way. From myself and all of BlizzPlanet, we express our dearest, dearest condolences to those who have felt that loss. But now we're going to move into something a little more video game related to this. Of course, what happens every time there's a massive tragedy like this, fingers start pointing, and inevitably that finger always starts pointing at video games. It happens every single time. You know, we talk about the Joe Thompson stuff that went on, you know, several years back. It's just, they always want to point the finger at video games. You know, it's causing the violence. It's what's wrong with our society, blah, blah, blah. This got to the point, in fact, there's a video recently that CNN put together. It's with a guy named Craig Anderson, who is a professor at Iowa State University. And now he actually did a study, long, complex study, that actually did relate video game play to aggressive behavior, okay? But if you watch this video, the way that CNN put it together, in fact, well, you just check it out yourself.
Knew Adam Lanza said he loved video games. In high school, Lanza was a member of the school's tech club. Members of the tech club played the computer video games, including the one you're looking at, Starcraft. It's a multiplayer strategy game where you command armies to defeat your opponents. So, is there a link between violent video games and aggressive behavior? Craig Anderson is a professor at Iowa State University. He's also the director of the Center for the Study of Violence. He joins us now from Ames, Iowa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Carol.
Glad to have you here. So, in your mind, is there a connection between violent video games and violence in real life?
Yes, there is. Every major scientific society that has studied the question has come to the same answer. The American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, most recently the International Society for Research on Aggression have all come to the same conclusion that basically media violence is a risk factor, is a causal risk factor for increased aggressive behavior, including violence.
Well, you know.
Now, if you're like most of us, the impression you got from that video was he's telling you pretty directly that video games have a direct correlation to the shooting at Sandy Hook. Well, some people reached out to Craig Anderson, Professor Anderson, and he said, no, this was a study he did a while back before Sandy Hook. He was pointing at aggressive behavior in general, but that it's not even the only thing. There are a lot of things involved, but the way CNN cut and snipped it together made it very much look like he was talking about this specific incident. And, this is CNN. This isn't even one of these, extreme right-wing news outlets. In fact, CNN usually leans a little to the left, in fact. So it's not even, the conservatives pointing it out. It's just, this is what's wrong with our over-sensationalized journalism. Bad journalism, honestly. It's all about making the buck and making people go ooh and ah. And honestly, I got to think, what happens when some tragedy like this happens? The news crew gathers around. They go, you go find me statistics about gun violence. You go find me a hippie who hates guns. You go find me someone from the NRA. You go build a cage for the aforementioned hippie and NRA member to fight in that's made of hemp and the trophies of Ted Nugent. And you go find me someone who hates video games and can point an accusing finger at them. Really? Maybe you just report the news, report what's happening, and talk about these things that are happening. In fact, what's spun out of this is they're actually talking about Adam Lanza, the man responsible for this horrible tragedy, and they're talking about how he played Starcraft. Ooh, Starcraft. Not the most violent video game, folks. All right? You are commanding little cartoony units to kill alien units, many of which look mechanical in nature. There's no blood. This is not a graphically violent, realistic at all kind of video game. And saying, oh, he's a gamer, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you what, this is stupid, all right? 6 million people have purchased StarCraft 2. Now, to put this in perspective of things that are also completely unrelated to gun violence and have 6 million people, there are 6 million people living with paralysis, some form of paralysis in the United States. Obviously, they must all be massacring children. 6 million people follow Snooki on Twitter. I don't even have a snarky comeback for that. 6 million people in the U.S. are on food stamps with no cash income. Obviously, all violent criminals. And 6 million people attend Oktoberfest in Germany every year. Why do I mention these things that seem to be completely unrelated? Because they are completely unrelated. Gaming is becoming ubiquitous. It's becoming a large part of the culture of the planet. It's no longer this thing that, introverted, the quiet types play in their mother's basements and, plot away at all the people who made fun of them and bullied them around when they were kids. It's not that way anymore. I mean, you talk StarCraft 2, of all games, that is like pretty much the pastime of South Korea, which has a much lower violent homicide rate than the United States. And per capita, way more people are playing StarCraft 2 in South Korea than in the US. So it's a ridiculous parallel that they've drawn right there. Now let's talk about maybe some good things that video games have done, all right? Now, studies have shown that video games actually improve cognitive ability. They've watched brain scans and seen amazing things happen to people's brains, their ability to, solve problems and come out things from different directions, all video game related. Lots of charity event tournaments going on. We talk about Child's Play Charity recently raised over $5,000. That's for kids that are terminally ill in hospitals. Blizz Planet readers over the years have donated thousands to a couple of charities we champion, including Child's Play and Extra Life. And the Blizzard Entertainment has donated millions, all right, at this point to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospitals and various pet sales they've done for, Red Cross for Hurricane Sandy, the tsunami victims in Japan. Video games do some good in the world too. Not to mention, it's been a boom through the recession for the most part, helping buoy economies and whatnot. So, you can't point all the blame there. Now, let's get into today. What happened today? The NRA came out, of course. They love guns, gun enthusiasts, gun lobbyists, and they came out wagging their fingers at video games. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the kind of weird stuff about what video games they were pointing out and all that stuff. Fine, they didn't do their research. But here's the bottom line. Here's the impression I got. The NRA, gun fanboys, if you will, are saying, no, it's not the guns, it's everything else. If you follow people on Twitter similar to who I follow, I kept seeing a lot of people basically saying, it's not the video games. It's anything but the video games. It's the guns. Here's the thing. Neither of them are completely right. We can't just point our fingers at one thing, all right? There's something systemically wrong in the U.S. that things like this keep happening. And we can't just point at video games. Those are all over the world. We can't just point at guns. Those are all over the world. There's more to it than that. I think it's all of these things and more. And there's no, pardon the pun, magic bullet that we can find and stop and suddenly make all this go away. It's much bigger than that. Parents, watch what your children are playing. Don't just go buy them Call of Duty every year. That game is violent. There is realistic gunfighting in there. I'm not saying that people shouldn't buy the game. I'm not saying that people shouldn't play the game. I'm saying be aware of what your children are playing. There are some people that also have trouble distinguishing fantasy from reality. If you have played games that are graphically violent, realistically violent, and can honestly say you have never been in the slightest bit affected by them, you should seek psychiatric help. That's not right. There should be some part of you that feels something when there is realistic violence, even if it's digital, and you're the one pulling the trigger. And, there was somebody on Twitter who was asking me this question of, what's the difference between video game violence and movies and books and all these other media? Well, here's the thing. With books, with movies, you are a passive observer. You are sitting there reading, turning the page. That's the extent. You're watching it on screen. With video games, you're there. Heck, the Xbox controller is even labeled left trigger, right trigger. You are literally the one pulling the trigger to kill these digitalized human beings. And in fact, there's some problems in video games. We can't say that video games aren't to blame at all. There are some people that are going to become more aggressive when they play these games. Not everyone. I don't think Adam Lanza was that. He played Starcraft too. There was something else very wrong with that man that led to what happened there, that led to that tragedy. But video game manufacturers maybe do need to start asking the question, should I? Just because you can put gratuitous and or realistic violence in your game, should you? There are more artistic ways to represent that. There are ways to show violence without showing violence. Sometimes what you don't see is more powerful than what you do. And you can pull back that violence. You can make the person feel less personally responsible with their own controller for those things. There's a lot of things to think about. I'm not one for censorship, but we really do need to start thinking, should we? Should we? All right, so we'll finish up with a question, as we like to do. And it's going to relate to all this stuff. What are your thoughts on all of this, on the mainstream media, the portrayal of video games, their role in the violence? Do you think video games are just completely blameless? Do you agree with me and think that there's just so many things that factor in to what's wrong in this country? Or is it guns? Let us know. Throw it down in the comments, and we're going to feature those best ones going forward. Thanks for watching, guys. I know it's been a tough one to watch, been a tough one to host. We'll see you guys next week.